All right, well, now we're going to be talking about growing green, and I'm joined by Denise Delaney, and it's always a pleasure to have you on Central Texas Gardener. You're the Grow Green Coordinator for the City of Austin. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, growing green has been something that we've been talking about for years now, and it seems like the roots are taking. People are really getting this big concept of gardening more gently,
Yes.
and that's really all that we're talking about, really, isn't it? Common sense.
We are, and there's so many easy things that you can do when you're gardening that are sustainable and help protect our water, and using low water use plants, conserving our water, and a lot of it's just really common sense, and doing things in an intelligent way and designing things properly so they end up being very low maintenance and needing less input.
Yeah. The way I think about it, Denise, is that people just need to chill. They need to relax a little bit about some of the things that they see. And once they start understanding that, how to diagnose some of the different issues, then an appropriate response, usually the appropriate response is a lot gentler than their first impulse, which is they see a problem and they immediately go for the pesticide or the herbicide.
Right. And I think that one really simple way to avoid that is to monitor, and that sounds like, an
Walk out in the morning with a checklist.
Yeah, you just pay attention and walk through your landscape and see if you see things change, because most things don't change overnight unless it's a hailstorm or something. That you catch things early, you can address them, or at least monitor their progress. And
what's the old adage? It's the best fertilizer for a garden is the gardener's shadow.
I like that.
Yeah, let's get out there and spend some time in the garden. And let's face it, gardeners do that. Everybody who's a gardener that I know spends a little time almost every single day in their garden. So, keep your eyes open when you're out there is pretty good advice. Now, you have been coordinating the program for a while, and there's lots of great, cool literature that you're putting out. We're going to show some of that in a minute.
Okay.
But there's a big emphasis right now on what you call the big three. Tell us what the big three are.
Yes, we have a campaign that will be airing on various media this spring, and we consider, we want people to learn how to fertilize properly, use insecticides only as needed, and protect beneficial insects, and then how they deal with weeds. I mean, a lot of time with weeds, you just go pull them, and you don't need to be spraying a lot of herbicide, but if you're somebody who needs to, you can spot treat and properly identify the weed and understand its life cycle before you do anything. But really, in most cases, keeping your lawn healthy and keeping the turf dense prevents a lot of weeds from coming up.
Let's take that as our first step. Okay, so fertilizer and the appropriate use of fertilizer, that's step number one of the big three.
Right.
Now, when we talk about fertilizer, mostly what we're really talking about in Central Texas and anywhere in the United States is lawn. That's where most of the fertilizer goes, is dumped onto the grass.
Right.
What's appropriate? If people want to garden gently, how do they do that?
Well, I think first of all, they need to consider the history of their site. If they prepared the soil well and invested in their soil, and their turf is thick and healthy, they probably don't need to fertilize, twice a year. They might see how it goes in the spring and then do it in the fall. We recommend that on each application that you only use 1/2 to 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet, because you can always add some later, but you don't want to put more down than the plant can take up. So that brings us to timing. And when you put your fertilizer down, no matter what kind it is, it's best to wait until you've mowed the grass 2 or 3 times so you know the plant is photosynthesizing and taking up that fertilizer. If you put it out there now, it's going to wash out when we get some rain and end up in our water, which obviously we don't want. So, using it conservatively, I really think organic fertilizers are the best way to go, because they help feed the soil, which helps release energy and nutrients for the plants. Synthetic fertilizers are many of them are highly soluble and dissolve quickly and are gone before the plants can take them up. So
what you said just makes so much sense. Build the health of the soil, and the plants will respond. And if you have healthy soil, ease back a little bit on the fertilizer.
Right.
You know, the best advice, I think, you know, you mentioned organics. There are good organic fertilizers on the market now. And also compost, you know, which is, to me, the best way to go. And if you do it once a year, or if you're trying to, maybe, say you have a really bad situation, really impoverished soil, really bad looking lawn, maybe doing it twice a year. But you'll see big results.
Right. And also aerating. And I brought this neat little aerating tool.
Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, this, if you have a small area, you can get one of these, you hook a hose into it, and it has little holes down here.
Right.
And you go across your lawn. Now, watch your irrigation pipes, of course. But because it's about the soil, but it's really about the roots in the soil. So by poking holes with this, and then top dressing with the compost, you help get the compost
a little deeper,
down in where the root system is. And of course, you can rent machines. You could share the cost with your neighbor. It's pretty big. It's like a big rototiller, and it pulls plugs. You want the one that pulls the plugs, not just the one that pokes the holes.
Right.
Or you can hire somebody to do it. But really, by poking all those holes or pulling those plugs out and then getting some organic matter in there is the only way to really improve your soil after your turf grass is down.
And this is good. You can come stomp through the lawn with this and take your aggression out on, if you're one of those you have more hands-on or foot-on kind of people, you know, that's not a bad way to go. Now, let's spend a little bit of time talking about the second part of this, which is insecticides. No need really to go crazy if you see a bug in the garden.
Well, yes, I agree with that. We have our new diagnostics fact sheet, and this was an attempt to help people figure out what the problem is. Is it an insect problem? And, you know, is it, a lot of problems are cultural or environmental. They're when somebody doesn't plant it in the right place, or they water too much or too little. But this fact sheet will help people figure out what the insect problem is.
So people can see. And you can go through here and you have photographs which identify the various problems.
Yeah.
And, you know, you really help. This is, I think, lots of good literature that your program has put out, but this is a really cool new tool for people who, especially those overly anxious people, you know, they want to know what's going on with their plants.
Right.
This is one of those things.
And they can find these in all the nurseries and home improvement centers in Austin. Also at growgreen.org, and on top of that, our partners, the Agri Life Extension Office, with Skip, they can call the Master Gardener's Hotline and get help diagnosing problems. You can send digital pictures, you can drop off a sample, and it's free.
Right.
So if you're one of those anxious people and you need a little more help and you can't figure it out with, you know, with the literature, then you can call and talk to somebody about it.
And again, related to the insects, you can identify if they're good guys or bad guys, which is really critical.
Right.
Because not all, and you know, some people freak out at the thought of a bug in their garden, and obviously that's kind of silly.
Yeah, and then one good example of that are wasps. I mean, I got stung this spring by about 12 times, and I'm not the biggest friend of wasps, but they kill those tent caterpillars. And
they do a lot of good in the garden.
They do. If you can break open the webs of those big tent caterpillars,
those
wasps will get in there.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying if you have a wasp nest by your front door, don't, you know, discourage them in that way, but just let them be. I mean, it's a, you know, it's all about the big picture and letting everybody do their part.
Okay, so we've talked about the first two steps.
Right.
We've got to mention herbicides because that's step number 3, the big 3.
Right.
And this is something that's really seriously impacting the health of our environment in Central Texas. Overuse of herbicides, especially weed and feed fertilizers, are killing our streams.
Yes, we're finding atrazine in the majority of our water samples that we're taking, and weed and feed makes no sense horticulturally because the time you need to fertilize, which is the feed part, and the time you need that pre-emergent herbicide are different times of year. So it doesn't make any sense from that standpoint, but yeah, it runs off and it gets in our creeks and our water and our groundwater, and who wants that when you don't need to?
Cancerous, dangerous materials being found at high levels in all the streams of Central Texas. And it's the result of people who, if you ask them, saying they do it because they love their lawn or they love their yard, they love their garden.
Well,
sad.
we're trying to help change that wave.
Right. Now, there's a festival coming up where people can really get involved. Real briefly, we need to talk about that.
Yes, it's the Green Garden Festival, and it's put on by 5 different city departments collectively, and it will be at Zilker Gardens, Zilker Botanical Gardens, on February 22nd, and our theme this year is trees.
Oh, great.
So we'll have tree experts. You can ask any questions that you want about trees. We're going to have a tree climbing activity for the kids, which is a great way to get the kids engaged, and lots of kids activities, very family friendly. It's a Sunday afternoon, and we hope that people will come out because it's going to be a great day.
Okay, and that's happening on the 22nd of February,
yes.
right? Okay,
yes.
very good. So the Green Garden Festival, and it should be a lot of fun. And again, the brochures are going to be available in garden centers all over Central Texas.
Yes, in each store there's a display with 23 different fact sheets.
Okay.
So just look for it.
All right, well, I'm sure people will. Denise, thank you so much for being a part of Central Texas Gardener. Always good to see you.
Great, thanks.
And coming up next, it's Skip Richter.